Hey everybody, Tex-Mex here. Thanks for joining me for another video. Today I'm just doing an update on my Marlin Model 39. I had put in I put the Skinner sights, and on the last video we tried those out and they worked really well at 50 yards. I'm back at 50 yards again. The reason I'm doing a second video is because of the issue I had with the misfires. I had replaced the trigger spring with one of these Palo Verde Gunworks Marlin spring kits, and it did lower the weight of the trigger quite a bit, but unfortunately too much because I was having too many misfires. And this particular spring kit comes with a cylindrical spring. I'll show a picture of it. You can see it here, but I'll show a picture of it as well. It might be easier to see, which work well, but the original springs on these Marlins are barrel springs that look more like this. They get fat in the center. And this particular Marlin, it's one of the newer productions. Well, they're not in production right now, but it was a newer production for its time. And they have a rebounding hammer, which I think requires you to have a heavier spring to really make it work. And this Palo Verde spring has ways to manipulate the tension by adding spacers. And I'll show a picture of that. I've got it right here, but the GoPro's not really good about focusing at short distances. So if you see the picture here, you can see that there are ways that you put spacers in there to increase the strength of the spring. And what I did is I ended up putting all the spacers in and made the spring as strong as possible, and I was still having misfires. So due to that, I ended up changing the spring out, and I think these Palo Verdes work well with probably Marlins, the older non-rebounding hammer ones, and some that are more broken in, because this one's still a little stiff. And if you have a action that's much more broken in, then you don't need as strong of a spring to get that hammer to put enough pressure on the rim fire to make it fire. But unfortunately, it just wasn't going to work on my particular Marlin. So I got the Wolf spring, and I think Wolf also makes a few different springs. I'll show a picture of that here. This one is the hammer spring reduced power. That's also a barrel shaped design. I thought that might work better. And as you can see, the Palo Verde Gunworks spring, took a picture here of when I was measuring the trigger weight, and it got it down to well under 3 pounds. It was 2 pounds and some. And it made the trigger much nicer, but if it's giving me too many misfires, it's just not going to work. So this is my first time out with the Marlin spring. I checked the weight on it as well with the Marlin spring, and you can see it was a little heavier. It got it over 3 pounds. It's still a good trigger. So I'm going to set up the target at 50 yards again. I did adjust my Skinner sights a little bit. I think I heightened the point of impact a little bit because I was shooting a little lower than I expected to, but it was grouping well. So I am going to set up the target at 50 yards, put 10 rounds of this CCI mini mag. That's the 40 grain. I think this is what I shot last time. I hope it is, because it was grouping really well with whatever I shot out of it last time. And at this point, I'm going to see if the small adjustments I made to my Skinner sights help me hit where I want to hit, and secondly, to see if the Marlin spring is going to function better in this firearm and avoid any misfires on my 22. So let me go ahead and set up the target and we'll get shooting. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I got my sight set out there at 50 yards. Let me go ahead and put my ears on. I've got 10 rounds of this mini mag loaded. I'm hoping I didn't adjust the sights too far to where it's not hitting target anymore. You know, the front sight is still a bead sight on this. I didn't change it, and the bead sight covers up, well, at 50 yards it doesn't cover that whole black section of that target, but it's most of it. But I'm going to try to shoot to where I have the orange dot just on top of my front sight. Oh, I had the safety on. So it wasn't a problem with the spring. That was a problem with me paying attention to my safety. So one of the reasons some people don't like these newer Marlins is because they put that crossbolt safety in there. Let's see here. Oh, misfire. Let's try that again. Okay, that one fired well. Let me take a look at that round. I ejected the last round. I just figured I'd try with a new round. And actually, it does have a good strike on there. So this wolf spring seems to be working. That is a pretty solid rim strike. So it may have been this one was a dud. You know, CCI has always been one of the more reliable ammunitions for me, but I did buy a few of these mini mags a few years back. I bought like a case of them, and unfortunately that must have been a poor quality control case, because I've had multiple misfires out of that particular lot. Let's see here. Now this is 50 yards, which is kind of stretching it for these sights and my aging eyes, but it's something I'd like to be able to, I mean, I'd like to be able to hit at 50 yards with this rifle in 22. But let's see here. And really, I'm gonna need to do an ammo test at some point, see which one this Marlin likes the most. I've got a bunch of different 22s I'd like to try through it, but unfortunately, every time I come out here to shoot, it's been very windy. So I need to find a nice calm day to do that test. Okay, there we go. That was a misfire. Okay, when I recocked the hammer, it worked. So the wolf spring does seem to be doing better. It may just mean that I need to put a few more 100 rounds, maybe a couple more 1,000 rounds through this rifle to smoothen out all the sharp edges. That should help avoid these misfires. Yeah, it's disappointing though. I was really hoping this wolf spring would have completely alleviated the problem. It mostly seems to be doing so. And that's a lesson. If you're changing out your trigger spring to lighten up your trigger pull, if it's part of the hammer spring, or on this one it is the hammer spring as well, you could end up having misfires. Okay, no, it's working better now. Maybe I just need to oil it up a little more. I don't see where I'm hitting. It's too far for me to see with my naked eye. So hopefully I'm hitting somewhere on target. I think I'm seeing that I'm hitting low. Have I shot 10 already, or is that a misfire? Yeah, I had already shot 10. That's not a misfire. Well, let's go take a look at our target. Okay, if you see here, it actually is doing pretty well. My eyes are getting weaker with age, and to keep a group this tight at 50 yards with open sights, it's pretty good. And a lot of it has to do with that Skinner sight. That Skinner sight helps me align my sights more consistently, and obviously it gives me a much longer sight radius on this particular firearm. I guess this is a low hit here, I'm assuming. Well, when I watch the video, I'll be able to say whether this was a low hit or not. But that's not a bad little group. Still hitting slightly to the left. I think I was doing that last time, and a little low. So that's an easy issue to fix with my Skinner sights. So let me adjust the sights a little bit and see if I can get it hit closer to center. Okay, let me adjust my sights here a little bit. Now, the way you adjust elevation is just by screwing in or unscrewing the peep sight, and it goes up and down. Obviously there is a little Allen wrench here on the side, or a little screw that you loosen it and tighten it so that it doesn't move. And then for windage, there's another screw here that you loosen or tighten, and then you can tap this right here one way or the other depending on where you need to drift it. Now remember, the rule is rule of 4 is FORS, front side opposite, rear sight same. So if I want my point of impact to move to the right on the rear sight, I need to drift it to the right. If I want it to move left, I would need to drift it to the left. If I want my point of impact to go up, up, and if I want to go down, I screw it down. So it's very, very simple when you're messing with the rear sight. So I need to raise this up a little bit and drift this slightly to the right to see if I can get closer to the point of impact. I'm gonna drift it very, very slightly, because really at 50 yards I was barely drifting left, so I don't want to drift it too much. I do have a drifting tool here that I bought. I think I got this one through Skinner Sights, because you can use you know, a brass punch or something of that sort, but this one is really, really great because basically you can just pull this little spring and let it drop, so you can tap, you know, slight taps or big taps one way or the other if you want to drift left or right. So I really like this tool. What's it called? It's called the Wyoming Sight Drifter. So if you're drifting sights a lot, this is a nice tool to have. So let me go ahead and do that. Well, I'm out here shooting with a buddy of mine. That's his target. He's doing some pistol shooting. And he brought some of these stickies. So I'm going to use one because it's a little bit bigger than that orange center. And it's significantly brighter. So I think at 50 yards, that's going to help me see it a lot better. Well, let's hope. Okay, I've got 10 rounds loaded of the same ammunition. I did notice on my shooting bag, it's a little oily here. Now, when I put in the Wolf spring, I did oil the inside of my firearm really well. I'm wondering if maybe I over-oiled it, and that may be causing it to be a little sticky, which is potentially why the first few shots didn't work as well with the Wolf spring. But now that the oil is starting to work its way out and loosening up, it's starting to work better. But of course, I'm just guessing on that. I'm not an expert, more of an enthusiast. But let's see here. No, the action does feel a little bit smoother. So let's go ahead. Let me put my ears on. I can't put these ears on with this hat, so I gotta switch out a hat for ears. Let's see if my sight adjustment had any effect. Well, it should have some effect. Let's see if it had a positive effect. Here we go. Oh, that's not positive. That's one. Yeah, I was really hoping this Wolf spring would be a lot more reliable. It is more reliable. I mean, I want the lighter trigger, but it's having an effect on how reliable it is and actually hitting the rim and igniting the round. There we go. Oh, come on. Is it going to do it with every round? Yeah, it seems that the second shot's working. It's always the first time around. I wonder if it's the bag. Let me try shooting it on top of the bag to see if that makes any difference. Nope. Seems to require a second try on each round to make it go off. There we go. Maybe I should try a different ammunition as well. A little more reliable there. It is a chillier morning. I can't imagine that would have a huge effect on the viscosity, but you never know. Yeah, that's disappointing. And I can always put the original spring back, and I may end up doing that, but I do like the feel that the Wolf spring gives to the trigger. Almost every round. And that's it. That's 10. It's still a little more reliable than the Palo Verde. Palo Verde, I mean, it would just, I'd have to fire multiple times just to get a round to go off. But really quickly, after I go check my target, I'm going to try a different type of 22 just to see if maybe these CCIs have a slightly harder rim on them. I doubt it. I'm sure it's probably just the spring, but hey, I might as well check. So let's go take a look at our target. And here we are at our target, and boy, oh boy, those Skinner sights do a good job. I mean, look at that. That is a great little group at 50 yards, open sights. Now, I thought I had drifted it a bit to the right. I may need to tap it a little bit more, but just a tiny bit, because wow, I mean, I almost hesitate to move it because I'm almost right there. But obviously for elevation, I've got it dead on. When I put my sight here, the front bead was like right there. Well, it's bigger than that. It's probably like that. And I just had this orange dot just right on top of the front bead, and it's hitting great. I may just try to drift it just a little bit more, and I may wait. I may try some different ammo, because obviously different 22 ammo is going to hit or impact differently on the target. So I may figure out which ammo I really want to use with that rifle, and then do any fine tuning as far as sighting it in for that particular ammo. But hey, for Skinner sights, wow, that really is impressive. But let me go try a different type of ammunition through the rifle to see if the Wolf Spring does any better. Okay, before I try the other ammo, because I'm going to try some Norma USA TAC 22 to see if there's any difference in how well it shoots. One of the good things about the safety, crossbolt safety, is that I can check the trigger on this without having to put a snap cap in there. Let me just check at what that Wolf Spring has it at. I know I posted a picture earlier, but I want to see out here today. 4 pounds, 6.7 ounces, so it's quite a bit heavier. Let's try that again. Putting it right here in the center of the trigger, trying to pull straight. 3 pounds, 12 ounces. Let me try again. £4 pounds, 10 ounces. Wow, that's a whole pound difference between these readings. Maybe the spring just needs to break in. Let's try the next one. 4 pounds, 12 ounces. Yeah, it seems to be closer to 4 pounds, 12 ounces. So, you know, I'm not sure the Wolf reduced spring is giving me a whole lot of value over the factory spring at this point, depending on, I mean, I'll check with the factory spring. I don't think I was getting much over 4 pounds with the factory spring. I could be wrong. Let me try this one more time. In fact, I'm gonna put the rifle up like that just to make sure I'm not messing with it in any way, shape, or form. 4 pounds, 14 ounces. Yeah, it's pretty heavy. For a reduced power spring, it's pretty heavy, but it needs to be. I mean, as you can see, it's even with the heavier spring of the Wolf, reduced, quote-unquote, reduced power spring, I was still having misfires with that CCI. Once again, this time I'm not really going to be aiming at the target. Well, I am, but it's not about accuracy at this point. I'm hitting well. Let me put my ears on. I just want to see if the TAC 22 does any better out of this than the CCI did. So, oh, well, I have the safety on. Twice in one video, but that's fine. That's what happens when you try to rush things. Okay. Shoot at some of the smaller steel over there. Nope. Oh, issue is cycling around. There we go. Okay, that's a little better. Just shooting at some steel over there. Nope. So it's not just the CCI. I'm not sure what to do. I don't know if I'm gonna, I mean, I don't want to have a rifle that's only gonna fire every other time I pull the trigger. I don't really hunt much with this. This is more of a target shooting rifle. But that being said, I want it to go bang every time I pull the trigger. Ugh. And it just, yeah, it just doesn't want to do it. Does not want to do it. So if you've had luck changing the springs on your Marlin lever actions, or any other rifles for that matter that are rimfire, and can give me any advice that might make this one work more reliably, other than just shoot the hell out of it. So that well, I think one thing I could do is, this is a rebounding hammer, and what that means is this hammer, when you fire it, I'm going to fire it right now, you can see that after it strikes, and let me hold the trigger down, after it strikes, it rebounds back. And I think that's a big problem with the newer models in trying to put a lighter hammer spring in there. It's just not giving it enough oomph because there is a certain amount of pushback from that rebounding hammer. It's just not giving me enough power to ignite those rim fires reliably. So yeah, I guess there's gonna probably be a part 3 to this video at some point once I figure out what I'm gonna do with that. So as far as the Skinner sights, amazing. I recommend them. As far as the Palo Verde, I would only get that if you have an older model Marlin that's well used and very, very smooth. At that point, that one's gonna help you really lighten up the trigger and hopefully still have reliable ignition of your ammunition. The Wolf, it's a good spring, but it's just not reliably igniting my 22. So yeah, a quandary. So, but as always, thanks for joining me. I'm sorry this wasn't a completely successful videos, but they won't always be. It's part of why I do these videos. It's just basically all joining me in my little outings out here. I'm very fortunate that I have a couple of properties I have access to shoot at, so I'm trying to take advantage of that as much as possible. But I am still full-time employed and have a lot of responsibilities, so sadly I can only come out here every few weeks if I'm lucky to get some rounds off. But when I do, I have a ton of fun. I hope you all enjoy watching. And like I said, if you got any advice for me, please put it in the comments. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.